Well, good morning, Al. Good to see you. We're finally a little bit above 30 degrees here for the first time yesterday, for the first time in a week or so. So we're thawing out. And before we get started, I got to do a shout out. My good friend Tom Collimore has a book coming out that you're really going to enjoy. It's all about advanced men and women through various administrations, from Lyndon Johnson to President Obama and everybody in between. So it's bipartisan, and it has over 90, almost 100 contributors. I confess I'm one of them. But it's just great to hear these stories that are really seldom told and rarely, if ever, told publicly. But Tom Collimore and his co-author, Gene Becker, have put this book together. It's out in bookstores and on Amazon today. So for our friends who like to follow all things political, I thought they might enjoy it. Over to you, because we got plenty to talk about today. What's on your mind today?
Well, I just want to reiterate what you said about Collimore. We were both of us had a chance to work with him in various business deals over the years, and he's really a terrific guy. This morning, it was the first morning since the snow began 8 days ago, which we could take our dog on her normal route, and it was like a different world.
Okay,
I
next
mean,
week we need a photograph of this dog on a
okay, all
walk.
right, all right.
Viewers really curious minds want to know and see this dog.
But that left me in a much better mood this morning. Uh, what's on my mind, over the weekend, Wall Street Journal uh, ran a story about Trump selling 49% of his crypto company, whatever that is, to a sheik in Abu Dhabi, and that netted his family $187 million. And some of his friends, like a good deal as well, tens of millions of dollars. Uh, and a few months later, the government just happened to sell Abu Dhabi some very valuable chips that for AI that the national security agencies raised as a national security threat, because what's going to keep we can't sell them, we won't sell them to China, but there's no reason Abu Dhabi wouldn't. And that just made me think about how much corruption we've seen. I mean, the New York Times recently did a piece that said Trump's collected over $1.4 billion for himself and his family since he's taken office. I don't know about you, but I worked in the White House when I was a young man, and at great sacrifice. I mean, because salaries were limited and you couldn't take outside income when I worked in the White House, it took me 5 years to get out of the debt I accumulated. But for Trump, it's a nirvana. Here's a guy who was really, despite all the hype, a pretty terrible businessman. He went bankrupt 6 times. The streets are littered with his business failures, but since he's come into office, he's made all this money, and I think with enormous ramifications for the country, not only costing the taxpayers, threatening our national security, but it really gives him a stake to want to stay in power. And as we've been hearing the last couple of days, he's now threatening to try to rig the 2026 election.
Yeah, I know. It's really unthinkable, and it's not, of course, not just him. I mean, it was Eric
Yeah,
Trump, I think, who
right,
said this
right,
crypto business is the best business the family's ever been in. Casinos, hotels, everything else aside, it's crypto that's delivering hundreds of millions, if ultimately not billions of dollars to them. And to put it in perspective, if you or I were to go and take somebody to lunch who's on the White House staff and pay for the lunch, we would be in violation of the conflict of interest laws. A $30 lunch is, in fact, something that creates the possible conflict of interest. And White House officials can't do that. And yet Trump and his family seem to take money. When I was Bush's chief of staff, his family was very, very careful. But even as careful as they were, they would be approached by people who wanted help, and they would try to provide help. And it ended up being my job to, counsel a brother, counsel a son, to be careful. They did nothing wrong. They did nothing wrong, but they could create, as I suggested to them, the potential for the perception of a conflict. And that was the standard perception of a conflict. These people seem to rake in as much as they possibly can and care little about what it's all about. I really think, Trump is so transactional in all of his relationships. It's all about taking care of the people he likes and punishing the people he doesn't like.
Yeah, well, the question is, how do you stop it? And when is it, when is it going to end? I did a post yesterday, which I just on our Fromm and Fuller Substack about where I basically reposted a piece that our friend Bill Christo had done about how Trump is using ICE to intimidate, is shaping ICE as the kind of paramilitary force that could interfere with the election, intimidate voters. And then last night he goes on television and says we got to take over the federal government's Republicans have got to take over the voting procedures. I mean, this all is pretty scary to me, and it's something we really never dealt with. I mean, the big scandals of our past, like Watergate, seem minuscule compared to the daily dealings of Trump. I mean, it's play to play every day. This week we just had the Melania documentary. They made $28 million on that, and from what I can tell, some of the cult may go to see it, but it's really not much of a addition to the public debate. $400 million plane from Qatar. I mean, it just goes on and on. The extortion from the universities, from media, from law firms. It never seems to stop. And it really worries me about when it changes from just grabbing money to trying to hold on to power.
Yeah, there's very little that can stop them. I do think that the states are banding together, states attorneys generals and others are getting ready for the election. Ultimately, we're kind of broken records on this. Ultimately, this is a November 2026 issue. At the end of the day, it's going to be about what happens after the midterm elections. And if one or both houses of Congress flips, there's plenty of activity to investigate for the final 2 years of the Trump administration.
Yeah, I think he's really getting scared now because all the polls are indicating that it could be a Democratic sweep. The House seems very likely to go Democratic if the election is free and fair. And as we've both been saying, over the odds of the Senate even are increasing. And for Trump, again, this may be far-fetched, but not only do I think that they would investigate him and he'd be impeached, but I think after the damage he's done to a lot of Republicans who have bitten their tongues and not said anything, and publicly praised him when they privately despise him, if he were to be impeached again in the last 2 years of his presidency, I would not be surprised to see a surprising number of Republicans vote to convict him and try to get him off the scene forever.
Could happen. I bet they stretch it out, though. Well, look, we'll see you later in the week. Take care.
All right.